Okay, so I was actually starting to make an adapter board for these Xiao Seed Studio microcontrollers here, and if you look carefully you will see that on the bottom here there are some pins for the debugging, and we have MTDO, MIDI, MTDI rather, MTMS, MTCK, of course there's ground, but this particular one also, this is a ESP32 S3, it also has a D plus and a D minus for USB obviously, and some things for battery. So I decided to amend my little adapter that I already had and put some pins in there, pogo pins that would touch these pads, these 8 pads here. And in order to do that, unfortunately what they have done is that these, as you can see, these pads don't line up with the pins here, and they are like only 1 mm outside of the the lineup here. So, and these pins are 2.54 millimeters apart, so therefore they've made it really hard in order to get, like if you're using a little perf board like this, it won't line up with these little pads. So what I've had to do is actually, right now it's got some flux and stuff on there so it looks a bit blurred, but I had to take a little piece of perf board and file it down and everything so that it will be also, as you can see, 1 mm out of sync, and I glued that in with some epoxy resin. And of course on the other side we have an array of these little pogo pins that's going to be touching those pads, hopefully. And I put a little header on there, which 2 headers actually. The one here that's connected to a ribbon cable is actually connected to this ESP prog board, and you can already see once we start implementing that, this has an FTDI chip on it, which is a serial to USB, and the JTAG port is on COM N. It's actually going to end up COM 0 or something like that, and the program pin would be N+1, so you can actually, in some cases, actually program the microcontroller through these ports as well, but we won't be using that. We'll be using the standard USB that's on the board as well. And on the other side of this, of course, the reason I got it plugged in is that I can double check. It has the pins marked here. I guess it's a little bit blurred, but I'm not going to adjust it. TDI, TDO, TCK, TMS, and a bunch of ground pins and a VCC pin. In any case, so I've already soldered up a few wires here for the USB. That is power, like 5 volts, and it has ground and those D minus and D plus pins. It's actually like a USB 2 layout, and I'll be making a little cable that plugs into this port here with a USB socket on it. I don't know exactly. I think the S2 actually has the capability of having a host. I haven't really looked it up yet, but I seem to vaguely remember that it might have an ability to run a host USB port as well as a device port. Maybe that's why those pins are there, so you can have 2 USB ports. In any case, this is for experimentation, so we will find out what it is when we get to it. And I'm going to be soldering up these 6 wires over here to this port over here. And in order to do that, I have made up a little diagram for myself as how they're going to be wired up. So it's a little bit small, I guess, on the camera there, but this is what I'm using in order to, these are the 6 pins here that I've got to connect to this header over here. So let's get to it. And apart from that too, I'm making up a second cable with I've already done one end of it that's going to be able to be plugged into there. It's going to be able to be plugged into there as well, because some of the other microcontrollers, they don't have pins like that on it, but they have GPIO 12, 13, 14, 15 I think. I have the purpose for the JTAG port. So on this side of the cable here I'm going to be putting these pins over here, DuPont pins, so that I can plug them into the like into a breadboard next to the controller. But that is yet another little job. Okay, so what we have here is some wire wrap wire, some 40-year-old wire wrap wire that I used to use for my projects in the late 70s and early 80s. And then of course you have a wire wrap tool like this, but I'm not going to be using wire wrapping it, but it has the little stripper on there so that I can strip the wires with it, because my normal strippers is wires too fine. None of my normal strippers work on it, and so you can actually put the wire in there like so and just pull, and you'll have, as you can see, a little exposed metal there, which is enough to solder onto those pins. So I'm going to make a little strip, little pieces here that goes from there to the header, the right length. Okay, so these 4 pins over here are all going to be ground. I'll put a little piece of bus wire next to it that we are going to be soldering to those 4 pins. And I have a little piece of wire wrap wire here, which we can put on there as well. Right. Now for this I'm using my fine soldering iron here, which is 50 watts. That should just about do it. Got it set to 325, but I think I'll up it a little bit for this. 350. Now this pin over here is connected to ground over there, so we are going to loop this around a little bit, keep it out of the way, and we want to connect it over here. Okay, let's double check. Yep, all connected. Alright, now this pin over here has to go to the 3.3 volts output, which is the third one over here. This is USB voltage, which is 5 volts. This is ground, and this is 3.3 volts. See if I can. Okay. Making a contact. Hopefully not with anything next to it. Nope. Okay. Very good. Now, let me see. The next pin here upside down from that camera, but it's not upside down for me. This is TCK, which is the second pin from the bottom, which is this one here. This pin over here is going to be TMS. Where's TMS? That is actually that one there. I think we might do that one first. I'm just going to add a little bit more flux there, because I put some on there yesterday, but I had to stop. It's dried up a bit. Another one's going to go from here to here. Alright, so next one. Okay, well, I've already got ground from another place. I don't have to deal with that. But just those two pins on the outside, those two over here, these can be left. One is enable, and you know, I don't need that. So this is DO, these are D out and D in, D out, D in. This one is not connected. So there should be just yeah, 3 pins left. This one is not connected, and those two over here go to theirs. Alright, so in actual fact, this is the way that the board goes, because I got it the other way around now. Did it in the wrong place, did I? Okay, so this one here is that one there, and that is the TDI, and that goes to this pin here. Alright. Looks like that should be long enough. Actually, I might as well snip the other one off already too, because this one over here goes to the 3rd pin, which is this one over here. Oh, got an interruption. My wife's noticed something on our little dog, and look what we found. A tick. Just this morning we went for a walk to the river. They say that ticks are related to spiders, and I think they're right because they've got 8 legs. Pretty active. I'm not aware that we don't have Lyme disease and stuff here. These ticks are not that kind, but still, it's pretty awful. Tuck it in a plastic bag. Anyway, let's have a look what we got here. except it's not really gripping that wire. Alright. I think that does it. Okay, yes. Should be able to double check it now. I'll do it off camera. I'm going to double check with the multimeter that these pins as indicated here are connected to the ones as indicated on this little board here. So that pretty much does it, except for me to check it and clean it up with a bit of isopropyl alcohol. And I might put a little bit of hot glue on there to make sure that those wires don't come loose, and that will do the job. Or maybe I'll put some solder mask on there and some UV lights. I'll see. Anyway, we should be able to test the thing now after I've got that cleaned up.